So again, I'm Amy, and I'm going to lead us through the next probably not quite an hour, and we're going to do an activity called Jumpstart Storytelling, and we are all going to get a chance to tell a story. This is a fun activity. You're going to get to hear stories from several different people. Your challenge, though, is going to be to tell a story in 90 seconds. So I know that for some of you that might be hard, but I'm going to be keeping time, and so it'll have to be a 90-second story. And the story that I want you to tell is I want you to tell a story from your perspective. It's got to be full of the word I. A story about a time that your church, you and your church, sought to be missional. So I want you to think of a time, a project, an activity. Stephen's already used the word experiment. And the story, you're going to tell the story to a small group of us here in the room. And the story doesn't have to necessarily be a story about how you succeeded. You had this great idea about doing this project or doing this activity, and it can be a story where you failed. Hopefully we've already set the stage that that's okay, but that you learned something from it. Okay, hopefully everybody's got their story in mind. So I'm going to give you your instructions. Don't do it just yet. But I do want you to, no, you can go ahead and do this. What I want you to do now is I need you to find 5 people to sit in a circle with, and they need to be 5 people that you do not know. So if you all can get up, move your chairs into groups of 6, but I want you to sit with people that you don't know. I'm hoping everybody can find 5 people you don't know.
I knew they weren't going to say.
Cynthia and John, y'all can't participate. Okay, so decide who's going to go first. And who's ever going to go first, what we'll do is we're going to take just a few seconds of silence, and then the next person's going to go. I'll give you the cues, but we'll move to our left. So whoever's going to go first, and the next person will just be to their left. So does everybody know in your group who's going to go first? Can somebody volunteer? Okay. And I've got my timer. You have 90 seconds to tell your story. Begin. Okay, y'all. So if I can have your attention back up here, thank you all for sharing your stories. Hopefully, in the sharing, we're beginning to sort of see the mosaic of the missional church just kind of form right before our eyes. So we wanted to get it started with us all being able to share a story and being able to hear lots of stories. But we also want to begin to sort of have the threads that are really resonating with us kind of start to bubble up to the top. So what I want you to do is to think about all of the stories you just heard. And I want you to think of one in particular that comes to mind that is really resonating with you, really resonating with the reason we're here about how to be the missional church. I want you to go, get up, find that person, put your hand on their shoulder. So it could be that one person has about 5 hands on their shoulder, which is fine. Or it could be that I put my hand on your shoulder, but you want to put your hand on her shoulder, so I've just got to follow you along. So we're going to end up having a chain, but I want you to go put your hand on the shoulder of the person, one person whose story particularly resonated with you. So go ahead.
I don't know. I got it. Knock it over. This is great.
Are y'all each choosing the person in front of you?
Yes.
And then you choosing Jim, and then we got, okay. We got 3 on him.
Okay.
You must have had a good story, buddy.
He's always sitting down.
We got 3 here.
That's all one neighbor.
All right, so Deb, and I don't know your name. You, and James, and you. Would the 4 of you come up front? Please. Deb? Please. So you can, so everybody else have your seat, have your seat. Now you all can tell me no if you want, but what I want to ask you to do is to tell that very same story yet one more time, but if you'll stand here in front of the microphone so that everybody can hear it. I'm going to time you, because we still got to keep it to 90 seconds, we're on a schedule. And after we're done, I don't want you to clap, or after the person's done, don't clap, don't say anything. Let's just be silent for about 10 seconds, and then I'll invite the next person to go, and we'll just hear them all, okay? I'll go sit out front. Thank you.
Okay, well, how to start? Well, my family is big. My mother, my brother at that time was 11. My youngest brother was 1 year old, and it was me, he was 12. And one day my father left. So my mother in that time, she was a student, a college student, so we didn't have money, to survive. And one day we lost the power, so we lost our food, but we had beans. And sometimes we don't put it in the fridge because the fridge didn't work. So sometimes my mother has to rewash the beans, so she cooked it again. So one day we had the last part of the beans, and we were worried. And my mother's like, "Come on, get up and let's pray." And she said, "Well, God, you promised that you will take care of the birds so you can take care of us. So enjoy the food. God will provide." And 10 minutes later or so, somebody knocked at the door, and we opened the door, and it was our neighbor. And she's like, "Don't take this in the wrong way, but I had the feeling, I had the need to share with you my food." So she gave us the food for 1 week. So after that, I feel like I let the Spirit of God lead my life by helping and serving others. So that's the story.
Went to a church, 18 members, predominantly white. And I had the task of seeing how we could go out into the community. We started a bread ministry. The bread ministry started off, we was feeding with Sara Lee, bimbo, bagels, all the good food. Date's still great, not out of date at all. Sweets and everything. And people started coming. And we got up to 5,000 family members that we give bread to every Saturday. From that, people started joining the church. One Sunday we had 19 people professing a faith. 19. So if God is a great God, and He's awesome, that's why we're here, to learn from one another, to do the things and be vulnerable, to be able to go out and be happy and be joyful. What can I do to serve the community?
Well, I have to make a kind of a disclaimer, or say I'm sorry. The first group I was in, I told a story that didn't work for us. So when it came around to the last group, I told a story that didn't work for our church, but then there was some time left. And so I thought, okay, let me tell you all a story that really did work. And so they thought it was a positive story. For over 20 years, our church in McMinnville has been doing the Good Neighbors program. And every Thursday, we have a different group every week who comes and makes hot meals for over 150 people in our community, in our county. And then we have people, there are cooks, there are people who do the desserts, and there are drivers. And I've driven that 20 years too. It's a real blessing for us. It's a blessing for the people we serve. And it's more of a blessing for those of us who take it out to the people in our community than it probably is the people we take it to.
For you from Nashville, you understand Room in the Inn, I know, but in Memphis, there were only 2 churches doing Room in the Inn. And Lois and I went and checked it out at one of the churches. And we left there going, we can do this. We can do this. Well, we got back to our church, and some of them didn't think we could do this. And we said, we can do this. This is something we can do. And so we continued to pray about it, think about it, and work on it. And donations started coming in. And so one night a week, starting this coming fall, but we did every other week starting out. We brought 12 homeless people into our congregation, into our church, gave them a hot meal, gave them a warm place to sleep. This is through November through the end of March. Showed them hospitality. And there were some folks that got out of their comfort zone. This was not what they were accustomed to in Midtown Memphis, I'm trying to tell you. But it was a phenomenal thing that occurred. And it's been a life-changing event, not for those homeless people that we would pick up and bring and give a meal and a warm place to sleep, and then a breakfast and take them back to where we picked them up. It's been a life-changing event for the members that have been working. We had a lot of opposition initially. We got cited by the government. We were breaking the law. That law has now been changed, and now any church in Memphis can step up and do this. And so we're pretty pleased that Room in the Inn will grow in Memphis as a result of all of this.
Thank y'all. Let's give him a hand now for